Greetings. This is Body-Culinary, sending you all some warm, positive vibration. So, just wanted to come on quickly, just to share in my favorite time of the day, which is the early morning hours, and moving around, doing some relaxation and some breath work, which we've been exploring on this channel. By the way, if you're new to this channel, welcome. This is Body-Culinary. On this channel, I share along my journey of radical self-acceptance, whole, fresh, unprocessed foods, cultivating a movement practice. If you haven't begun one already, it's one of the most bestest things about self-care. And the garden, starting a movement practice, and whole, fresh, unprocessed foods, all as a means of self-care, which a result of is increased self-esteem. So I just wanted to share something on this experience with you folks out there that may have very fine, delicate, Afro-textured hair. Many people refer to it as 4C hair. I like to refer to it as Afrolocs, because I really like to celebrate, and I make it a practice, radical self-acceptance of celebrating and working with what I have popped out onto this existence as, right? My hair, my skin, with all of the different changes and the things that it goes through. Because the more I sit with myself, the more I appreciate myself, the more I reframe my narrative. For example, even when we say flaws, I was just thinking, flaws, let's say, for example, if you may have stretch marks or scars, like I'm in the garden all the time, and I'm also cutting. I have a lot of very sharp knives, as a chef. So constantly, or quite often, I may cut myself with shears or a machete or just different things working in the garden. So, this is what I have. When I look at it, actually has some meaning there. So accepting who you are at your different phases of life, right? And that can be, number one, access to that I found, and you can try it out for size, access to how we really deeply feel about ourselves beyond the words that we say out of our mouths. We can have access to an inner listening through the breath. So relaxation and cultivating. If it's not a practice, we're moving in a realm or a reality for many of us that is moving very, very fast. And a lot of messages are constantly being deposited without us even thinking of it, involuntarily into our subconscious, and it affects how we feel about ourselves, which drives our emotions, which drives our behavior. So I make an effort to, and as humanly as possible, as practically as possible, to access that through the breath. And so actively slowing down, deep breathing. If I do it long enough, even beyond a few minutes that we do on these videos, you can start to hear not so much just a voice, but your own internal communication. And there are different forms of communication that are going on. So the breath gives us access to that. So yeah, my juice, my my water this morning. I mean, this is actually Jamaican lime. It's not orange, it's Jamaican lime. It's delicious. You can most likely find it at one of the Asian markets that carries Caribbean and tropical products. You can find Jamaican lime. Shout out to all my Caribbean massive, Africa massive, Haiti massive. And then also when I'm having self-care, look at that. This came right from my yard. So these are beta. These are very bitter herbs. This is cerasee, so it's fresh dried. And I make it a practice to intake and consume bitters. Bitters for me are a whole food group. I consider bitters a food group. So I'm going to certain things bring us to reality. So I am a fan of bitters, and I have several of them growing in my yard. And I do encourage you on this channel to begin to grow something. Everybody can grow something. So I'm just going to take a bit of these herbs. I'm not straight no chaser. I gonna chew it down because this is a food for me, you know. This is a food for me. So if you're in the Caribbean, a tropical area, you have access to Sarasi. Mm, it was super bitter. I still put hair on your chest. So what I wanted to touch on today was I woke up like this. And this is one of the best things that I love about Afrolocs or freedom hair. You know, just that feeling like I don't have to do anything to myself to be beautiful and to free up space. Um, Minimalism is a trend now, but minimalism in terms of our mind, there's so much clutter. There's so much clutter in our mind. There's so much protocol we have to go through just to be accepted by our own selves. I think it really drives Afro women crazy. I think it's a tremendous use of our resources. Now, don't get me wrong. I love grooming and pampering and all of that stuff. However, I have found over the years that a lot of what we're pressured to do to ourselves to alter and augment our bodies to make them into something else other than when they're naturally born to be. And the number one priority for me is health. Health is my number one beauty product. Relaxation, actually, I would consider a beauty product. Greens to me are meat, and these bitters, this is like, wow, this is kicking in these bitters. So one of the best things about this beauty mark, this beauty stamp, is that I was born like this. I woke up, I don't have to do anything. And I love the whole idea of like a lioness mane. I woke up like this. Yesterday I did separate some a little bit because I don't want one big kanganati, but I'm not doing anything. Now I do find when I tie it up, it just feels better. So it's like a listening. What feels good? I like it soft and it's like cottony and it's mine. And my scalp is clean and healthy. And I can wake up and I don't have to go run and shield myself. Beautiful morning. Beautiful. Thank you for morning chat. You are so welcome. Sending you warm, positive vibrations. So, before I forget, shout out to one of my other subscribers. She said that my videos are long. So I move. I'm not a religious person. I move quite often in spirit. So I do recognize that people have different time spans. I'm an early bird, usually 4 o'clock, 4:30. That's a power hour for me before I start mixing and mingling with folks. So I will make some videos that are shorter. It's just be quite often. This is something that I do on my own. It's an offering, also as a sharing. And so I move with spirit. So sometimes I'll come on and I'll just move with a vibe. If something comes that I think that could be of value to people or that might be inspirational, I'm very sensitive to women, to mothers. I'm also a mother of a son too. So I'm very sensitive to young people and young adults. And I just make an effort to understand people. And I'm usually thinking, what could motivate somebody to get into action around what we say is important to us? So esteem definitely is at a foundation. As a woman, as a mother, I would like to consider myself a positive strategist. I want a positive result. So how can I motivate a person to get into action around that on their own? And one of them is feeling better about herself. How can I motivate clients? How can I motivate my son and young people around me, even family members? How can I motivate them to get into action? So that's been an ongoing puzzle that I actually get excited about. So back to this here. Some of you may or may not have experienced a whole lot of acne, even with all my healthy eating. That was very uncomfortable to me. It was painful. As positive as I am, I'm gonna be real. I wasn't feeling good about that. Some of us may be concerned that we have thinning hair or just naturally thin hair, or the hair, it does not want to, it's communicating that it does, this is what it would like to do. It wants to curl and to kink, and it's free. This is what it wants to do. This is how I woke up. It's like, it's just a freedom. It's freedom, freedom, freedom. It's doing what it wants to do. Usually I'm trying to make it do. In the past, I used to want to make it do something else. So one of the things I love about the lioness mane, it's like a lioness. It's like, it doesn't want to be tamed. this is it. If you look, I'll invite you today. I love nature. Pull up online, lions. I've even seen a few video clips of some folks in cars that have come across, I don't know where the lions were coming from, if they were in some part of the continent, where these lions were just walking around boldly and confidently around people's cars, and people was like in their cars, just the presence that these lions have. And so I see why, you know, um, in nature, my godfather has a dance company called Forces of Nature, but why we venerate nature and even the creatures of nature, which I find between the garden and nature, so much common sense, so much profoundness that we can translate and find meaning with our own divine innate common sense, right? And I'm really, if you have been following any of the videos, you'll see that just intuitively I mention our own onboard divine innate common sense a lot, because it is something that is our birthright that we are born with. So I'm all about leveraging what is ours, what I can say with pride and a healthy sense of vanity is mine. Health, okay, maybe one day I'll play in some makeup, but quite often I'm not drawn to it because this is the package that I come with. And I think that you radiate another kind of confidence. It's interesting, we put on makeup for confidence, but somehow just my intuition, and I'm not saying that it doesn't have confidence. I think there is, and I'm learning more and more, there's duality in the universe. There's duality. And so one of my main focuses is to really sit. And I can't say what that is for you, but to sit in your presence and really say, love yourself, but such an appreciation. Do you smile at yourself when you see yourself with nothing on in the mirror? And that's something that I cultivate and that I'm actually very protective of, especially as I mature through the different phases of life. Um, Wisdom has been hard earned. Wisdom is something I don't think you can Google. You can look at other people's memes, but a knowing and a confidence that comes from life experience, right? And still uh, having an open mind to know that there will be more wisdom to be accrued. Your values and things that you once thought without a frame of reference can change over time as you have life experience. So I'm very protective of how I feel about myself and enjoying what I have that is mine because of confidence. And I can see why many folks consider locks, whatever Afrolocs, new locks, whatever people want to call them, is a form of rebellion or revolution. But this is not so much. It's all of those things. This is not so much against other people, but more for myself. I don't have to be against other people to be for myself, and I take that on as a mantra to gaze into the mirror and look at what you've got. What you've got. This is all people, but I'm speaking my experience in this particular reality, and I'm not limited to this. But I'm an Afro person. I'm an Afro woman. I have an Afro son, and I have dark chocolatey grandparents, right? And so we haven't realistically been celebrated in the world. And if anything, I find that we have mostly been fetishized, right? And we have been, for different reasons, which I think can be obvious, um, we have been fetishized. Yeah, we've been fetishized, and that does not equate to value. See, wisdom. Someone can fetishize you and fetishize your chocolate skin, and they want to have an experience with you, but that does not mean that they have your back, that they really have your best interest. There's a distinction. If I could tell myself as a young woman, right? And what we see in this climate and again, I'm not demonizing anyone if folks would like to get naked, butt naked, whatever their creative expression is on this planet. However, just because you put yourself out there and somebody gives you attention, that does not mean that they honor you. That does not mean that they respect you. That does not mean that they invest in you, right? And so these are distinctions that we don't make as teenagers or even in our early 20s. We're usually mimicking what we see of mature or older adults, let me say older adults, and of society without a frame of reference and without life experience. And quite often, it's not until after we've got some hurt feelings and some radioactive fallout do we understand later wisdom, right? So if I could go back and take this wisdom and put it into my younger self, but we know that's not how it works. Let me have some water. Self can of glass. So I woke up like this. I don't have to do anything to myself. I'm not going to drag this out so I can make some videos that are shorter. I want to encourage you because I'm even moving organically with how I'm sharing in this channel. And I keep finding that relaxation is so important to allow feelings to come up and to pass and to sit with yourself, whoever you are, male, female, might be white folks on this channel, black folks, because we all ultimately human, spirit having a human existence. I invite you to sit in relaxation with all that you are and radical self-acceptance. I got some scars, I got some stretch marks, I got some grays, my body and my hair and skin is changing. At some point I'm going to exit this planet. Some people will say AKA die. I will transition. I don't know what that's going to look like. So sitting with the reality of that we're not in control of who stays and who goes and when we exit into this planet. Perhaps it can motivate us to an urgency of self-love, to an urgency of getting into action around what we say is important to us. So before I move on to the garden and to my movement practice, just gonna go into, and you're welcome to join in some just relaxation, no religion, no gurus required, just your breath, which is free. So you're welcome to take a comfortable position. We're going to breathe and inhale and exhale through the nose. You want to keep a nice straight spine so that oxygen can travel without being encumbered or blocked to your brain. Tilt your pelvis up, gently pull your belly button in so you don't have any back pain. Put a yoga block underneath your glutes if you need to. And we're just going to breathe for a little bit. So you're welcome to Ask a question of your own divine onboard innate intelligence, perhaps something you've been working on or working through. If it's releasing a vice, which direction to go in business, if you'd like to scan your body, if you have a question about your own health, you can turn within and just communicate with your own intelligence without a label. Without a label, there's a communication happening all the time. You're welcome to write a sentence or two or even a few words, if you like, in your journal. And as you move around in the quiet of the early day, just listen, no pressure, as your intelligence communicates with you all the time. There's a part of our psyche, there's a part of our essence that it doesn't argue, it doesn't debate, it doesn't fight. It's there all the time. We can't hear it quite often because there's too much noise and outside stimulus. And even our vices, underneath there's an undertone, there's a communication, there's a why, there's a why. I can tell you that definitely, as someone that has worked, greetings, as someone that has worked in nutrition, focused around whole living foods and unprocessed foods and fitness, and working as a personal trainer for many years, I have been fascinated by the study and being in the think tank, in the experiment with myself and others of what drives our behavior, what in particular, what drives motivation, natural motivation, excitement, what drives self-sabotage, what I would call socially acceptable slow suicide, right? Where we laugh and we smile at it. Obviously, a big part of it is marketing. But I do not underestimate addiction. I do not underestimate triggers. I do not underestimate trauma. I also don't underestimate joy. And quickly, let me get off because I'm told I make my videos longer. Yesterday, I'll share in the garden. I'm so proud. Yesterday, I got a lot. I got 2 beds of beets. I did weeding and I put yoga beets and traditional beets in the ground and leeks. And I used up every old pot and piece of wood that I could find. And I really maximized all those pots. I planted black lettuce, lavender, repotted some marjoram, planted some beautiful edible flowers, knowing that many of them may not make it. Some of them, the ants will eat them, or other bugs will eat them. But it was actually a lot of work in there all day. And think about how much time which I will not demonize, right? Because it's beautiful in the cocoon, which is a process that I work with many people with in my practice and also with myself. Just to sitting with yourself, something as simple as a garden, as planting something, even if you're in a city. I tell you, it can kick off, it can activate another kind of intelligence that is inborn, that it's not mine. It's all of us have access to it. So I invite all of you to grow something. And even if it doesn't live, right? Have healthy curiosity about why. And you can also hear the tone of how you're communicating with yourself. For example, is it harsh? Or are you saying I'm dumb or I can never grow anything? Do you stop the effort? Do you get discouraged? How we're doing one thing can give us insight into how we're approaching other things. So your movement practice, your food preparation, your garden can give you tremendous insight. We're constantly going out to all of these professionals. Everyone is the expert on you. While we're not encouraged to go within and to get familiar with it's said, we have all these memes, all these sayings, but we can all stand back and observe. It doesn't land. Somehow it's not communicating. It's not ending up in our consistent behavior. It would seem that a lot of the population of our species is so enamored with vices, right? There's nothing wrong with pleasure, but to vices that would have us take ourselves and our organs and each other, take us out. So I invite you to listening. I invite you, I invite you to create positive support for yourself and to cultivate. If you don't have those people there to leverage the internet for something positive, create a circle of influence for yourself, support for yourself. I invite you to lay on the floor for a few minutes a day and do absolutely nothing. Nothing, just to be still. Greetings, greetings. To lay on the floor and do nothing, actually, as a form of self care, to allow yourself to let um, all of those thoughts sometimes that we may think, we may become anxious about the thoughts and scared about our creative thoughts. Like sometimes there's so much stuff that is flowing through me. I realize even in my own listening, how would people feel if I share this? Will this sound away? But it doesn't matter. You're born into this human existence. You have creative ideas. You have things you want to experience. And there's so much we've been programmed to condemnation, judgment. Judgment, common sense. Judgment, condemning ourselves. And other people actually will condemn their own selves with their own behavior. So I could go on and on. I invite y'all to grow something. I invite you to nourish yourself with the most beautiful, water-rich, nutrient-dense, optimal fuel available to you. Cleanest water. If you don't have a fancy water filter, just the cleanest that you have access to. Work with what you got. Love yourself to another level. Love your body temple to another level. So we got beats going on. We got some other organization going on in the garden. Y'all create a great day on purpose because you said so. Whatever's going on, because you said so. Create a great day. And know if this is how you popped out onto the plane with your little delicate hair that's cottony. Yup. Man, I slick nothing, yeah? And we pretend it's other people condemning us when in the essence it's us. It's both. It's both, but it's so much programming. I am humbled. I humbly observe that I don't take for granted that because we have degrees and we've gone through grade school to be good workers and get some skills, that this brain, this computer is not highly programmable. It is highly influenced to trauma. That I'm crystal clear. We are highly influenced by the injection of trauma. And as humans, we have a tendency to spread that trauma like a vampire bite. Well, also, we are also affected by the sunshine. I got some huge mammoth sunflowers, and I watched the sunflowers, they change position. So we're affected just by the plant, just like the plants, right? So I make a conscious effort to choose what channel I want to be on, knowing that there are other influences, everything that is pulling my attention this way. And so in the cocoon, the top quality fuel that is available to you, serve it as beautifully as you can, decluttering, right? These are, to me, practical spiritual practices. And one of my favorite food groups, betas. Bitches. Yeah, I got some aloe. I started one aloe from a little piece like this. You can see on one of my videos, and I share on Kwasa Peaceful Eating with a K on TikTok. Inspiration. And now let me not get it twisted. It's not that I cannot wield a machete and that I don't experience anger. I'm a human being like anyone else. Duality. And I'm the most peaceful plant eater you can meet. But, approach my family, you could get something else. There's duality. There is duality, and I accept that. There's life. There is death. That's practical. I think we have been groomed by a lot of religion out of our common sense and through the school. Although there are some things we've gotten positive, I think we've been conditioned out of our confidence due to grades and stuff. The cocoon. Okay, let me get out of here. I'm going to get out in one more minute. The cocoon is a process of going in. So there are many things that I have observed work with clients over the years, folks that have been bulimic, that have been morbidly obese. Also, that is the background of my family and the comorbidities that go with it. Depression, folks that have really, in the fitness industry and with clients, folks that have dramatically changed their bodies. Also, as someone that has consumed whole living foods for 11 and a half years fully, and then this year deciding to experiment with some potatoes steamed or whatever. I'm always fascinated by our consumption patterns. Consumption not only limited to food, right? The physical food that we're putting in our mouth. So the cocoon is a process that there are some patterns, there are some distinct patterns that I have seen when it comes to quote unquote success or results, when it comes to it being very natural for you to eat peaceful consumption is what I call it, not eating things that poison you. And that's not limited just to the foods, even if it's living foods, also the amounts and overstuffing ourselves. There's a process when it comes to making the mental space for a movement practice and finding what you can do, and there are sticking points. So I have seen patterns of success, things that are successful and that give people access to that. So the cocoon is a process of going in and really maximizing your time, right? So that you are creating this space and you're finding your joy when it comes to creating a consistent movement practice, dramatically overhauling your consumption when it comes to your eating, right? I used to be a junk food junkie with a lot of cystic acne. So that healed with food, as well as cultivating a garden and growing something as a way of reconnecting with nature, even if you're in an apartment, right? Addressing all of those sticking points and all of our valid excuses. So many of us will say we don't have enough time. There is enough time. So the cocoon is a conscious turning in. There are people that say, I know I need to do this and that. Even before this whole quarantine thing, which is interesting, I've always had this thing with turning in. Sometimes for many years, I was like, I wasn't interested in the club anymore. What is something else I can do? I don't want to go to the club. I still want to have fun. I don't want to eat poison, but I still want to enjoy my food, right? So the cocoon is a process of turning in and spending a lot of quality time with yourself. And it's also very purposeful. A lot of relaxation, feeding yourself the best foods is one of the things that we do in a traditional rites of passage, right? In the rites of passage, women, we eat the best foods. We're learning traditional wisdom about herbs. We're learning about the medicinal properties and the healing properties inside the food. We're learning self-care and wisdom of why we do what we do. So that is a cocooning process. It's a turning in and spending quality time with yourself. Everything that you've been asking and begging, pleading the world for validation, all of that you experience with something tangible. You give yourself tangible experiences of self-care consistently, if that makes sense. So that's a process. It is beyond dieting. It is beyond mere personal training where I'm just telling you, do 5 push-ups and sit-ups, although that could be and likely be a part of the process. But it's bigger than just mere personal training because it's a lot bigger than that. You just doing the exercises, that doesn't necessarily take care of your mindset. At the same time, a movement practice is huge, huge in your toolbox of self-care and your esteem. Anyway, I'm out of here. Y'all create a great day on purpose. Feel free to replay this to give yourself support. I invite you to be unapologetic about having positive support around you because there are constantly deposits going into your psyche. So if this computer is so programmable, why not program it on purpose? All right. See y'all soon.